Okay, the purpose of this video is to familiarize you with an Arduino sketch and help you make a couple changes to the blink example to have that code light the LED that we're trying to light. So let's look at this blink sketch. This light gray text here is basically like the credits for the sketch. It's who wrote it and who it belongs to. We don't need this, so if you want, you can delete it or you can ignore it. These two lines in the code says that anything following the two lines is not part of the code. This is important because you can include notes and explain what a line of code does without it actually affecting your code. You can also turn on and off lines of code with it rather than deleting them. So get in the habit of anytime you're writing code, including those two lines to remind ourselves what that code does. Because as your code becomes longer and longer, this is really important. Basically, there's two parts to an Arduino sketch or a C sketch. One is the setup, which we'll use to set all of our pins the way we need them to. And one is our loop. These are the actions the Arduino is actually going to take. We actually are going to add a line of code before our setup, and it's going to look like this. int space LED equals space 13 semicolon. You actually need a space. Looks good. If you did it right, the int should have turned blue. That stands for integer. And don't forget that semicolon. So what we just did is we named pin 13 on our Arduino LED. Let's actually call it LED 1 because later on we're going to have multiple LEDs. So now instead of typing in pin 13 or something like this, when we say LED 1, Arduino knows it's sending signal to pin 13. Okay, now let's make another change. Let's go into our setup, and in pin mode, we want to change LED built in to LED 1. We're not trying to light that built-in LED. We want to light an LED connected to pin 13, which we already named pin 1. Later on, as you add additional LEDs to different pins, you'll come back, add your integer, so repeat this line of code, but instead of naming it LED 1, you'll name it LED 2, and you'll type in the number pin that you have it connected to. Okay, so we made our change in our setup. What this line of code does is tell the Arduino that we're going to be using this pin to send signal out. So again, we've connected LED 1 is our pin 13. So now Arduino knows to send signal out of pin 13. It's basically like turning that pin on. Now let's come down to our loop. A loop is just like it sounds. It goes on over and over again forever. So it's going to start in order, read through the code, send those signals to the Arduino, and when it's done, it's going to repeat. If you notice, in the loop and in the setup, both have these brackets at the beginning and at the end. Your code will not run without those in the correct place, so it's important that you keep them there. If you were to add more code in, you need to come before the bracket and press enter, so the bracket's still at the end. It doesn't matter if there's some space as long as it encloses your loop and it also encloses your setup. Okay, let's look at what each line of code does. Digital write is the command to tell an Arduino to basically do something. Again, this says LED built in, so we're going to change that to LED 1. Pi is the command for on. sends high voltage, maximum voltage, to the LED. Delay is the code for wait. 1000 means 1000 nanoseconds, which is equal to a second. So this line of code means wait 1 second. Again, we have our digital write code. And again, we need to change it to match our LED, which is LED 1. Low is the code for off. And delay again, 1000. So what this loop does is turn our LED on for 1 second, then turn our LED off for 1 second, and then it's going to come back and repeat this entire code. We could adjust the 1000 to a smaller or greater number. For example, if I put 500, now it's going to turn my LED on for a half a second. So you will be playing with that number shortly, but for now, let's leave it at the 1 second. We could always add to this code too, which I'll get more into later. For now, let's just run the on and off for 1 second to make sure everything's working properly. Check back through your code, make sure everything's correct, that you have your int, and you've replaced all the LED built in with LED 1. If everything looks good, go ahead and verify and then upload your sketch. If you did everything correctly, your LED will start blinking.